The massive holographic display flickered to life above every major city on Earth, casting ethereal blue light across millions of upturned faces. The Stellar Assembly's message was being broadcast worldwide, their crystalline ships hovering in perfect formation above the atmosphere like a crown of stars. Humanity of Earth, the translator rendered their musical language into words. We have observed your civilization for the past 50 years. Your potential is concerning. The strange pause made the crowd shift uneasily. In New York's Times Square, a child pointed at the elegant shapes of the alien vessels while her mother held her close. In Tokyo, businessmen stood frozen on their morning commute, briefcases forgotten at their feet. Your species develops technologies in unpredictable patterns. You create weapons before you perfect medicine. You reach for the stars before you heal your planet. Your methods are inefficient, chaotic, and potentially dangerous to the established order of the galaxy. The Assembly's diplomatic vessel descended through the clouds above the United Nations building, its crystalline surface refracting sunlight in impossible ways. As it landed, the structure seemed to flow like liquid glass, forming a graceful bridge to the ground. Inside the General Assembly Hall, representatives from every nation watched as the alien delegation emerged. Their forms were beautiful, tall, ethereal beings that seemed to be made of living crystal and light. The Assembly's chief observer stepped forward, its movements as fluid as flowing water. We offer you a challenge, it announced, its voice resonating with harmonics that made the windows hum. Prove your worth within 5 years. Show us that your chaotic methods can produce something of value to galactic civilization. If you succeed, you will be welcomed as equals. If you fail, you will remain isolated until you learn to follow the proper path of development. The human representatives glanced at each other, years of diplomatic training barely concealing their concern. The Indonesian ambassador was the first to speak, her voice steady despite the pressure. And what constitutes proof of worth by your standards? The chief observer's crystalline form shifted colors, displaying what might have been amusement. Create something we have not seen before. Show us why your unpredictable development should be allowed to continue. We will establish monitoring stations throughout your solar system to observe your progress. Within hours, more crystal ships appeared in orbit. They positioned themselves at strategic points, deploying structures that unfolded like geometric flowers. Each station began emitting fields that would detect any significant technological advancement or space travel attempt. The world's leaders gathered in emergency sessions. Military commanders prepared for the worst. Scientists began analyzing every scrap of data they could gather about the Assembly's technology. But in a small office in Geneva, the Secretary General noticed something that others had missed. She replayed the Assembly's message, focusing not on their words but on their assumptions. They expected humanity to either make a desperate attempt to match their technology or give up entirely. Their challenge was designed around their own understanding of progress, linear, orderly, and predictable. But humanity had never followed predictable paths. The Secretary General called an unprecedented private meeting. Representatives from every space agency, research institution, and key industry received encrypted invitations. As they gathered in a secure underground facility, she shared her observation. "They believe we will try to impress them," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room. "They expect us to either fail attempting to match their technology or surrender our independence, but they have made a crucial mistake." She smiled, and in that smile was 5,000 years of human ingenuity, of solutions found in unexpected places, of victories snatched from the jaws of defeat. They have given us exactly what we need, a reason to work together, and the assumption that we will fail. Humanity has never been more dangerous than when others underestimate us. The next day, as the Assembly's monitoring stations began their vigilant watch, humanity appeared to return to normal life. If the aliens detected a surge of encrypted communications, they dismissed it as primitive digital chatter. If they noticed increased activity at certain research facilities, they attributed it to the expected futile attempts to match their technology. They had no way of knowing that Operation Stardancer had already begun. 3 months after the Assembly's challenge, Dr. Kazuki Tanaka stood in his underground laboratory on Mars, staring at a piece of paper folded into an intricate pattern. The origami crane his grandmother had taught him to make as a child sat beneath a quantum scanner, its delicate folds casting complex shadows under the harsh laboratory lights. "Run the simulation again," he told his assistant, not taking his eyes off the paper bird. But this time, map the quantum field lines against the fold patterns. Screens around the laboratory lit up with cascading data. In the corner, a holographic display showed the quantum structure of space itself, its fabric bunching and folding in patterns that looked surprisingly similar to the crane's delicate creases. "It's not about breaking the laws of physics," Tanaka muttered, reaching out to trace a fold line in the air. "It's about understanding that they can be folded." 15 kilometers away, in another section of the massive underground Mars facility, Monica Rodriguez adjusted her neural interface and closed her eyes. The quantum resonance chamber hummed around her, its fields tuned to match her brainwave patterns. "Ready for attempt 17, she announced to her team. "Initiating quantum consciousness sync in 3, 2, 1. The chamber's hum changed pitch. On the monitoring screens, impossible patterns began to form, human thoughts interacting directly with quantum fields in ways the assembly science had declared theoretically impossible. Rodriguez smiled without opening her eyes. The aliens had never considered that consciousness itself could be a quantum phenomenon. Back on Earth, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, lead engineer Jin Park supervised the final tests of the magnetic masking system. The assembly's monitoring stations watched for traditional energy signatures, radiation, heat, electromagnetic fields. But they didn't know that Earth's own magnetic field could be used to hide these telltale signs. "Like hiding a candle behind a bonfire," Park explained to visiting officials, pointing to a display showing a test vessel completely concealed by manipulated magnetic field lines. "They're looking so hard for advanced energy signatures that they've forgotten about the natural phenomena right in front of them." Operation Stardancer was proceeding exactly as planned, but not in the way the assembly would have expected. Instead of building obvious launch facilities or power plants, humanity had gone subtle. The massive underground complex on Mars had been constructed using existing mining operations as cover. Earth's increased industrial activity was disguised as normal economic growth. In a secure conference room, the project leaders gathered to share their progress. Tanaka's space-folding theory was proving itself in small-scale tests. Rodriguez's quantum consciousness interface had successfully controlled test devices. Park's magnetic masking technology could now hide an object the size of an aircraft carrier. The Secretary General studied their reports with intense focus, and the Assembly's observers, still watching for the wrong things, the Intelligence Director confirmed. "They expect us to build conventional ships and weapons. Their monitoring stations are designed to detect known forms of technology. They're not looking for origami-inspired space folding or consciousness quantum interfaces." A soft chime interrupted the meeting. On the main screen, a message flashed from the asteroid belt facility. "Hull construction proceeding ahead of schedule. First vessel ready for testing in 6 months." The Secretary General nodded slowly. "They gave us 5 years to prove ourselves worthy of joining galactic society. They never specified how we had to do it." She stood, walking to the window that overlooked the underground city that had been built in absolute secrecy. Thousands of people moved through the brightly lit streets, each working on a different piece of humanity's response to the Assembly's challenge. "Update all project leaders," she ordered. "Operation Stardancer is entering Phase 2. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity's chaotic approach to technology isn't a weakness. It's our greatest strength." Above, through kilometers of rock and secrecy, the Assembly's monitoring stations continued their vigilant watch, unaware that humanity's greatest leap forward was happening right under their crystalline noses. The first test of the space-folding drive happened in a sealed chamber deep within Ceres. Dr. Tanaka watched through quantum-shielded glass as the prototype, no larger than a coffee table, hummed to life. Its surface gleamed with intricate patterns that mimicked his original origami designs, now rendered in exotic materials that had taken months to synthesize. Power at 15%, the control room technician announced. Quantum field stability nominal. Beginning fold sequence. The air around the prototype shimmered like heat waves rising from hot pavement. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a soft whisper that shouldn't have been possible in the vacuum chamber, the device and its test platform shifted. They didn't disappear or move in any conventional sense. Instead, they appeared to fold into themselves, occupying a space that existed somewhere between the normal dimensions. Full quantum metrics recorded. Monica Rodriguez reported from her station, her neural interface feeding her direct readings of the quantum state. The space fold is holding stable. We've just created our first pocket of altered spacetime. The achievement was monumental, but there was no time for celebration. In the asteroid belt, the first full-sized ship was nearing completion. Its hull incorporated the folding patterns at a structural level, designed to bend not just space, but the very laws of physics that the assembly believed were immutable. Jin Park's magnetic masking technology had evolved beyond simple concealment. The ships could now manipulate magnetic fields to create what he called shadow corridors, paths through space where they would be virtually undetectable. It's like walking between raindrops, Park explained during a project update. We're not breaking any natural laws. We're just using them in ways no one else considered. The underground cities had grown. What started as research facilities had blossomed into true communities. Beneath the surface of Mars, gardens flourished using modified photosynthesis that worked with artificial light. Children played in parks under engineered skies that perfectly mimicked Earth's atmosphere. The assembly's monitoring stations registered only standard mining operations and the expected minimal life support systems. Their crystalline observers occasionally noted that humans seemed unusually accepting of their situation, but attributed this to resignation rather than purpose. In her office in the Martian city of New Horizon, the Secretary General reviewed the latest progress reports. The first fleet was nearly ready. The space folding technology worked perfectly at both small and large scales. The neural interface systems had been successfully integrated into the ship designs, allowing crews to pilot them with unprecedented precision through folded space. A soft chime announced a priority message. Lunar Defense Command reports unusual activity in the assembly monitoring network. They're adjusting their sensor arrays. She frowned. Do they suspect something? No, Mom. They appear to be expanding their search range. They think we might be trying to build something in the outer solar system. A smile touched her lips. The assembly was looking even further away from where humanity's true advancement was happening. Their assumptions about how humans would react to their challenge continued to work in Earth's favor. But there was no room for complacency. The next phase would be the most dangerous, testing the full capabilities of their ships in real space conditions. One mistake, one moment of dropped concealment, and the assembly would realize just how thoroughly they had underestimated humanity. Begin final preparation for Phase 3, she ordered. It's time to see if we can truly dance between the stars. In the shipyards hidden within hollowed-out asteroids, engineers made final adjustments to vessels that represented the perfect fusion of human creativity and scientific understanding. These ships weren't built to match the assembly's technology. They were built to surpass it by operating on principles the aliens had never imagined. Above it all, the crystalline monitoring stations continued their watch, their sensors probing ever outward into space, searching for signs of human activity in all the wrong places. Like sentinels looking for a sunrise in the west, they remained blind to the revolution happening right beneath them. The countdown to humanity's greatest achievement had begun, and not a single alien observer had noticed. Fleet Commander Isabella Santos stood on the bridge of the Starweaver, humanity's first space-folding vessel. The ship hummed beneath her feet with a sound unlike any conventional engine. Around her, the bridge crew worked at stations that seemed to blend seamlessly with their neural interfaces, their thoughts translating directly into ship commands. "All systems are green," her executive officer reported. "Magnetic shadow grid is stable. Assembly monitoring stations show no signs of detection." Santos took a deep breath. This was the moment everything had been leading to. The Starweaver, hidden in a hollowed-out asteroid, was about to attempt its first real space fold. If they succeeded, they would rewrite the rules of space travel. If they failed, they might alert the entire assembly to humanity's secret progress. "Begin preliminary fold sequence," she ordered. "Take us out slowly." The ship's quantum field generators spun up, creating the precise geometric patterns that Dr. Tanaka's research had proven could bend space itself. On the main display, a visualization showed the fabric of space-time beginning to ripple around them. "First fold point plotted," the navigation officer announced. "Target is lunar orbit, dark side. Shadow corridor is mapped and stable." Santos nodded. "Initiate fold." For a moment, reality seemed to blur at the edges. There was a sensation like a soft sigh passing through the ship, and suddenly the view on their screens had changed. Where moments ago they had been inside an asteroid, they now floated in the void behind Earth's moon, completely hidden from both assembly sensors and Earth-based observation. "Position confirmed," the science officer reported, her voice tight with controlled excitement. "Fold executed perfectly. All systems nominal." But Santos wasn't celebrating yet. This was only the first step. "Begin Phase 2 testing. Let's see what this ship can really do." Over the next 6 hours, the Starweaver performed a series of increasingly complex space folds. They jumped to Mars' orbit, then to the asteroid belt, then to Jupiter's shadow. Each movement was precisely calculated to occur in blind spots of the assembly's monitoring network. In her underground office on Mars, the Secretary General watched the test data stream in. Each successful fold brought them closer to proving that humanity could not only match but exceed the Assembly's expectations, and do it in ways they never anticipated. "Ma'am," her aide interrupted, "we're receiving a priority signal from Engineer Park's team. They've detected unusual activity in the Assembly network." She felt her heart skip. "Have we been discovered?" "No, they're reducing their monitoring coverage. According to the latest intercepts, they're concluding that humanity has accepted their isolation and is focusing on internal development." A smile crossed her face. The Assembly's confidence in their own superiority was working against them. They were so certain they understood human psychology that they were missing the greatest technological leap in human history happening right under their sensors. Back on the Starweaver, Santos prepared for the final and most daring test. They would attempt a long-range fold, pushing the boundaries of their technology further than ever before. "Plot a course to Neptune's orbit," she ordered. "Let's show them what humanity can really do." The ship's quantum field generators hummed to life once more. This would be their longest fold yet, crossing billions of kilometers in an instant. If successful, it would prove that humanity had mastered space travel in ways the Assembly had never dreamed possible. "Fold sequence initiated," the navigator announced. "Field stability at 100%. The stars blurred, reality folded, and the Starweaver slipped through a crack in spacetime. When they emerged, the blue disk of Neptune filled their view screens, and history had been made. "Send word to command," Santos said quietly. "Operation Startancer Phase 3 is complete. We're ready to begin full production." As the message was transmitted through their secure quantum channels, she allowed herself a small smile. The Assembly had given humanity 5 years to prove themselves worthy. They had no idea that in just 18 months, humans had already revolutionized space travel. And they still hadn't noticed a thing. Under the golden light of a distant star, the colony ship Dreamseeker emerged from its spacefold, its hull gleaming with intricate patterns. The binary star system, designated Haven 1, lay 30 light-years from Earth, and well beyond the Assembly's monitoring network. Captain Miguel Torres watched as his crew initiated landing procedures for the massive vessel, Below them, an Earth-like planet beckoned with swirling blue oceans and green continents. Their advance probes, sent through microfolds months earlier, had already confirmed its suitability for human life. Colony modules showing green across the board, his operations officer reported. First wave of settlers is ready for planetfall. In the ship's main hold, 5,000 colonists waited with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. They were about to become the first human settlement beyond the solar system, and the assembly had no idea they existed. Begin descent sequence. Torres ordered. Maintain magnetic shadow protocols even here. We take no chances. The Dreamseeker's landing was the culmination of months of preparation. As it touched down on the alien soil, history was made in perfect silence. No broadcasts announced their achievement. No celebrations were held beyond the confines of their magnetic shadow field. Back in the solar system, the Assembly's monitoring stations continued their routine surveillance. Their latest report noted decreased industrial activity in some Earth sectors, interpreting it as signs of humanity's gradual acceptance of their isolated status. They failed to realize that those industries had simply moved underground or to the asteroid belt's hidden shipyards. In her office on Mars, the Secretary General reviewed the latest colonization reports. Haven 1 was just the beginning. 3 more colony ships were already en route to different star systems, each carrying the seeds of human expansion. Update from Dr. Tanaka's team, her aide announced. They've successfully tested the improved fold drives. The new colonies will be able to maintain quantum communication links through folded space. We'll have a real-time network spanning 30 light-years. She nodded, studying a holographic display of known assembly patrol routes. Humanity was expanding into the gaps between their territories, using their own blind spots against them. The Assembly's assumption that humans would either develop along predictable technological lines or give up entirely had created the perfect cover for unprecedented expansion. On Haven 1, the first structures were already rising from the alien soil. The colony's design incorporated everything humanity had learned about adaptation and survival. Solar collectors that mimic the quantum efficiency of photosynthesis-powered environmental systems that could transform the alien atmosphere to Earth standard within a contained area. Second wave of colonists is ready for departure, Torres reported through the quantum link. And our scouts have identified 2 more potential colony sites in nearby systems. The Secretary General authorized the launches with a simple nod. Each new colony strengthened humanity's position. When the Assembly finally discovered the truth, they would find not a single human civilization struggling to advance, but a network of thriving colonies spread across multiple star systems. In the asteroid belt shipyards, the production of space-folding ships continued at an accelerating pace. Each vessel incorporated improvements based on real-world experience. The latest models could fold space with even greater precision, allowing them to navigate between stars as easily as Earth's old ships had crossed oceans. A junior analyst burst into the Secretary General's office, face flushed with excitement. "Ma'am, you need to see this. The Assembly. They're reducing their monitoring coverage again. They're saying that humanity has chosen a sensible path of internal development." She allowed herself a small laugh. The Assembly's certainty in their own superiority had become their greatest weakness. They were so convinced they understood humanity that they weren't even looking for signs of advancement anymore. As the first sunset painted Haven 1's sky in shades of gold and purple, the human colonists gathered for a quiet celebration. They had reached the stars not through brute force or by following the Assembly's prescribed path, but by thinking in ways the aliens never imagined possible. And they were just getting started. The crystalline ships of the Assembly's inspection fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. After 3 years of monitoring humanity's isolation, they had come to perform their scheduled evaluation. Their sensors swept across space, expecting to find a civilization that had turned inward, focusing on planetary development rather than reaching for the stars. The lead observer's crystalline form shifted in what might have been confusion. "Scan again," it ordered. There must be an error in the readings. But the second scan showed the same thing. The human mining operations on Mars have vanished. The industrial centers they had been monitoring in Earth's southern hemisphere were simply gone. Even the primitive satellite network had disappeared. Launch deep space probes, the observer commanded. Find them. In her office aboard Haven 1's Central Administration Tower, the Secretary General received the alert. Right on schedule, she murmured, activating the quantum communication network that connected all human settlements. Begin Operation Daybreak. Across 30 light-years of space, humans watched their screens as the assembly ships frantically searched the solar system. The aliens' confusion was almost palpable as they discovered more and more missing installations and populations. Their sensor sweeps are becoming erratic, reported the monitoring officer on Haven 1. They're starting to realize something impossible has happened. The Secretary General nodded. Send the signal to Commander Santos. It's time for humanity's grand entrance. Near Jupiter's orbit, hidden behind a magnetic shadow field, the Starweaver and its sister ships waited. The fleet had grown from that first experimental vessel to 30 ships, each more advanced than the last. Commander Santos stood on her bridge, a small smile playing across her lips as she watched the assembly ships scramble to make sense of their findings. All ships prepare for synchronized spacefold, she ordered. Let's show them what humanity has been doing during our isolation. The assembly's lead observer was preparing to send an emergency message to their homeworld when space itself seemed to ripple around their fleet. 30 human vessels materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with intricate patterns that somehow hurt to look at directly. Greetings, honored observers, Santos's message broadcast on all frequencies. We thought it was time to share humanity's progress report. Before the assembly ships could respond, more spacefolds rippled across the solar system. Mining installations reappeared on Mars. Orbital stations phased back into existence around Earth. Everything had been exactly where it was supposed to be, just shifted 5 minutes out of phase with normal spacetime. But that was just the beginning. We appreciate the time you've given us to develop. The Secretary General's voice joined the broadcast. We've made good use of it. Perhaps you'd like to see how far we've come. Quantum communications channels opened across light-years of space. On the assembly ship's screens, images began to appear. The sweeping spires of Haven 1's capital city, the underwater research stations of New Athens, the floating cloud cities of Storm's Edge. Human colonies, thriving and advanced, scattered across systems the assembly had thought unreachable. Impossible, the lead observer whispered. You were contained, monitored. How did you? We learned to think differently, Santos replied. You expected us to follow conventional paths of development, to either copy your technology or give up. Instead, we found our own way forward. The assembly ship's sensors were going wild as they detected the quantum fields emanating from the human vessels. Their databases had no reference for the type of space manipulation they were witnessing. 3 years ago, you gave us a choice, the Secretary General concluded. Prove our worth or remain isolated. We chose a third option, to prove our worth by doing what you thought impossible. As if to punctuate her words, a final space fold rippled across the solar system. The asteroid belt shifted, revealing the massive shipyards that had been hidden there all along. Dozens more ships under construction came into view, each incorporating technologies that the assembly had never imagined. The age of humanity's isolation was over. The age of innovation had begun. The Assembly's High Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every major galactic civilization gathered in the crystalline amphitheater, their attention fixed on the holographic displays showing humanity's achievements. The space-folding technology, the quantum consciousness interfaces, the magnetic shadow fields. Each revelation caused more murmurs of disbelief. This defies all established patterns of technological development, one council member declared, their crystalline form flickering with agitation. No species has ever advanced in such an unconventional manner. Commander Santos stood calmly at the center of the chamber, her dress uniform gleaming under the ethereal lights. Behind her, a real-time quantum link showed the Secretary General and other human leaders from various colonies. "Perhaps that was your first mistake," Santos replied, assuming there was only one valid path of advancement. The display shifted to show the intricately folded space drives that powered human ships. Dr. Tanaka's voice came through the quantum link, explaining how studying traditional paper origami had led to breakthroughs in quantum geometry. "You monitored us for signs of conventional propulsion systems," he explained. "But we found inspiration in art, in culture, in the simple act of folding paper. The universe, we discovered, could be folded just as elegantly." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some members demanded immediate sharing of the technology. Others warned of the dangers of such rapid advancement. A few suggested that humanity should be contained, a notion that drew knowing smiles from the human representatives. "You cannot contain an idea." Monica Rodriguez spoke from her laboratory on Haven 1. "Our achievements came not from copying existing technology, but from asking different questions entirely." The quantum consciousness interface she wore pulsed softly as she demonstrated how human minds could directly interact with the quantum fabric of space. The assembly scientists watched in fascination as she manipulated fields that their theories said should be impossible to control. "We offer an exchange," the Secretary General announced, her image dominating the chamber. "Not submission, not isolation, but true collaboration. Humanity has proven we can contribute to galactic civilization, just not in the way you expected." The High Council's leader, a being of pure crystalline energy, moved forward. "You have achieved in 3 years what many civilizations take centuries to develop. This is unprecedented." "Because we didn't follow precedent," Engineer Park added from his station near Jupiter. "We looked at the universe with fresh eyes. Where you saw immutable laws, we saw possibilities." To demonstrate, he activated the magnetic shadow field around his station. The massive facility simply vanished from all conventional sensors, only to reappear moments later. The assembly's monitoring technology, once used to contain humanity, now seemed primitive in comparison. "We propose a new framework for galactic development," the Secretary General continued. "One that recognizes that different paths can lead to the same destination, or perhaps to even better ones we haven't yet imagined." The council chamber grew quiet as the implications became clear. Humanity hadn't just developed new technology. They had demonstrated that the Assembly's entire understanding of technological progress might be flawed. "Your challenge was to prove our worth," Santos concluded. "We did so not by following your path, but by showing that new paths exist. The question now is, are you ready to explore them with us?" The crystalline members of the High Council conferred in rapid pulses of light. When their leader spoke again, there was a new tone in their harmonic voice, something that might have been respect, or perhaps even humility. "It seems," they announced, "that we have as much to learn from humanity as humanity once had to learn from us." Outside the council chamber, news of humanity's achievements was spreading across the galaxy. The species that had been expected to either conform or fade into isolation had instead revolutionized space travel, quantum physics, and the very nature of technological advancement. The age of singular development was over. The era of infinite possibilities had begun. 1 year after humanity's revelation to the Assembly, the landscape of galactic civilization had transformed. The Grand Hall of the New Horizons Academy on Mars hosted representatives from 100 alien species, all eager to learn humanity's approach to innovation. The Secretary General stood at the podium, looking out over an audience that sparkled with crystalline forms, shimmered with energy beings, and hummed with organic and synthetic life alike. Above them, through the transparent dome, ships of various civilizations moved through space, using human-designed fold drives, their paths marked by gentle ripples in reality. "The greatest barrier to progress," she addressed the gathering, "is not the limitations of physics, but the limitations we place on our own thinking." In demonstration areas around the hall, human scientists worked alongside alien researchers. Dr. Tanaka guided a group of crystalline engineers through the principles of quantum geometry, showing how their natural lattice structures could enhance space-folding capabilities beyond what even humans had achieved. "Your forms naturally resonate with quantum fields," he explained, his excitement evident despite the translation devices. "You never explored this because you thought your crystalline structure was too rigid for such manipulations. But rigidity, we've learned, is often just a matter of perspective." In another section, Monica Rodriguez led meditation sessions with energy-based life forms, exploring new ways their consciousness could interface with the quantum realm. The combination of human intuition and alien energy manipulation had already led to breakthroughs in long-range communication. "Each species brings its own unique perspective," she told her students. "The key is not to overcome our differences, but to leverage them." Engineer Park's magnetic shadow technology had found unexpected applications in environmental protection. Several worlds now used modified versions to shield vulnerable ecosystems from solar radiation, allowing life to flourish on planets once thought uninhabitable. Commander Santos, now Admiral of the Combined Exploration Fleet, reviewed mission reports from the edge of known space. Human vessels worked alongside assembly ships, their complementary technologies allowing them to chart regions that neither could have reached alone. "The latest surveys have mapped another dozen potential colony sites," her aide reported. "The adaptive environmental systems developed on Haven 1 can be modified for any of them." The Secretary General smiled at the progress displayed around her. But the true magnitude of change wasn't in the technology. It was in the shift in thinking that had spread through galactic civilization. Young assembly members now studied human art and culture alongside physics and engineering, seeking new sources of inspiration. Other species had begun exploring their own ancient traditions for overlooked wisdom that might lead to technological breakthroughs. "We stand at a crossroads," she continued her address. 3 years ago, we faced a choice between isolation and conformity. By choosing neither, by forging our own path, we discovered something greater than mere technological advancement. We discovered the power of diversity in thought and approach. The holographic displays showed the spread of human influence. Colonies thriving on worlds once thought uninhabitable, space-folding ships charting new territories, quantum consciousness networks spanning unprecedented distances. But more importantly, they showed collaboration. Hundreds of species working together, each contributing their unique perspectives to solve challenges once thought insurmountable. "The assembly challenged us to prove our worth," she concluded. "We did more than that. We proved that worth isn't measured by how well one follows an established path, but by having the courage to forge new ones. And now, together, we forge ahead into a future limited only by our imagination." As her words echoed through the hall, a new ship rose from the Martian shipyards, the first vessel designed and built through true collaboration between multiple species. Its hull combined crystalline lattices with human fold patterns, its quantum drive enhanced by energy beings' consciousness interfaces. The ship's name, displayed in multiple languages along its bow, summed up everything humanity had taught the galaxy: infinite possibilities. The assembly had believed humans would give up. Instead, they had shown the entire galaxy how to dream bigger than ever before.